Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Birch and R. And this is Evan Mulch. I'm the field coordinator in South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. And I want to talk about starting a Constitution as a Solution workshop. I hope there's a few more people that join that have hosted workshops before. I did reach out to a number of them, but I want to show you how easy it is. Right now, I have it to where if you are a member and you want to host a workshop, you don't have to pay for anything. In fact, if you're not a member and you still want to host the workshop, I will help you to host the workshop because it's easy to do with technology. Now, how do you host a workshop? Well, you can do it with an online meeting like this. You can also do it at a local event place. You can do it inside your home. I've seen every different option, doing it at a restaurant, somebody's home, at an event center, and online, and they all work. Everybody in America that knows what's going on, their number one Americanist activity should be teaching the Constitution. And it's so easy to do that everybody should be doing it. And that's just a fact. And that's the only way we're going to get back on track. We are the referees. We're the ones that tell congressmen when they disobey the Constitution. We are the ones that tell state representatives when they disobey the Constitution. We are the ones that tell if a sheriff disobeys the Constitution, we're the ones that speak up and say, hey, you took an oath to obey the Constitution, you need to obey. And when people don't obey the Constitution, we know that they are no longer, if their heart doesn't change, they no longer should be representing us, because it's an important oath to take. The Constitution is just a parchment of paper. That's all it is. It does nothing for us. A piece of paper is not going to do anything for us. What's going to do something for us is if we have people in America who take that piece of paper seriously and they enforce it. We are the enforcers. We are the referees. Whatever you want to call us, we've got to do a better job as Americans holding our representatives accountable. And ultimately, the Freedom Index that the John Birch Society produces is what we use to hold our congressmen accountable. But, as we all know, there's more votes that take place that are not accounted for in the Freedom Index. So we need to be so intelligent when it comes to the U.S. Constitution that every vote that is taken, we're able to call our congressman or U.S. senator, or even at the state level, or state representative or state senator, and call them and say, hey, you did not obey the U.S. Constitution on this vote. And we very rarely have representatives that obey the Constitution. So most likely all of us have at least one representative that misses a vote from time to time. I see, Jim Steele, you're trying to call in. You say you need a phone number to call in. That email that you received, you should be able to call in through the instructions that were sent to you. I'm sorry if you're not going to be able to participate. I hope you can, but I've got you unmuted here, Jim, if you speak up, because I know you've hosted a number of workshops, and I'd really like for people to hear all the good stories you have about what you've done and how many people you've recruited. By the way, if anybody else has hosted a workshop, I see one more person here. Boyd, I'm going to put you here so I'm going to advance you on to a panelist position. Boyd, you can speak up too now if you want to speak up and talk about this. But let me share my screen real quick. And by the way, I am going to try to keep track of the chat box too. This is a fun experience whenever you host one of these. Oh, Sandra, you said you've hosted the workshop. I'm going to advance you to panelist too, okay? Okay, so we've got 3 members that are on panelist that have advanced on to being panelist, and I've unmuted you. Or you've got to unmute yourself on your end. I've unmuted all of you.
Okay, am I?
We can hear you, Sandra. Yes,
Okay.
yes. And Jim, you're unmuted, and so is Sandra. If anybody else has hosted this, let me know, and I will get you started. Okay, Dallas, I see that you've arrived. So let me get you advanced to the panelist area. Let's see here. Okay. And nobody has to use video if you're a panelist. It's up to you. Of course, you can easily turn that off if you want to, but Dallas, you've been unmuted by me, so you should be able to talk now.
Okay.
Barbara, okay. Barbara, I see your chat. You've hosted a workshops, but you need to call in by phone chat. Send me another chat message and I'll advance you to a panelist if you want me to. Okay. All right, everybody. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and we'll have this interesting conversation, because in most of our communities, nobody hosts a Constitution workshop except for John Birch Society members, which is very sad. We should have Americans all over the place volunteering, especially right now with the state that we're in, volunteering to host this workshop. Dallas, it looks like your video's sideways, so you may need to change your phone if you're using your phone.
Okay.
There you go. All right. Okay, so now you're looking at the John Birch Society YouTube page. So if you're wondering, where do I get the videos? Well, you can actually go to shopjbs.org and you can purchase the DVDs. A lot of people do that. You can purchase, this is the one that includes everything. So if you go to this one, you get the printed material that goes with it, the lecture guides. It's $50 for that. Of course, if you're hosting it, you only need to buy one of those, but everybody who attends needs to have a materials packet. They need to come up with $20, or if you want to voluntarily make that donation for them, you need to order these for the people who are participating. Now, this is not required, but there is home material that people need to take home with them to study. It's just like any other class. If for those that went to any educational institution, there was usually homework. Well, the same thing happens with the Constitution workshop, but a lot of people do this. It's not required to do, but anyways, I do encourage it. So if you want to play the videos via a Zoom webinar like we're doing right now, you go to playlists, or if you're at home and you have a television, or you could be at a restaurant and they have a flat screen TV in there that has a connection with the internet. You go to our YouTube page, you click on this one, it says the Constitution is the solution. View full playlist, you press play.
Welcome to lecture number 1, The Dangers of Democracy. I find that the title of this lecture alone is sometimes a little bit surprising to people
because that's for you to do on your own. But any of us, to educate ourselves during the course of the week, can be watching these YouTube videos. I even play YouTube videos when I drive. Of course, I don't watch them, but I listen to them when I travel. And so anyways, those are there for you for free. They used to cost, you used to have to pay for the DVDs. But now they're available for free for anybody to use. Now, if you go to shopjbs.org, you can order the lecture guide, which they do a very good job printing it off. But I'm going to show you here in just a second here, because I gotta get it to pop up. It should be popping up here to where I can share it. I'm going to show you the lecture guide, okay? Just takes a little time sometimes. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. There you go. So this is the Constitution is a Solution lecture guide. Instruction manual and lecture guide. So if you're teaching Anybody can teach. If you're American, if you love our country, you can teach this. You can see there's 6 lectures that they all go with the 6 DVDs you have. I don't recommend ever doing a full class in one day where you watch all 6 DVDs and do all 6 lectures. That's not going to work very well for any class. Do them one at a time. One class the first Monday of the month, the second Monday of the month, do the second class. The third Monday of the month, do the third class. So that's how it should be done, because you want the Q&A sessions to last a very long time. So if you're teaching, here is the instruction manual. It teaches you what the purpose is, how to invite class members, what it takes to prepare for class, how to divide the workload. If you want to divide the workload, somebody else should be getting the snacks. It shouldn't be you. If you're hosting, you shouldn't be the host, the class instructor, the person who brings the snacks and drinks. I know some of you have done this. You shouldn't be doing the reminders. We should be having all of our members, and it doesn't have to be just members that do this. Anybody can participate in a leadership role when doing this. And there's needs to be somebody who logs attendance. You need to get everybody's email address, everybody's phone number that attends. We've done these in event centers before where there's like 25 people that show up. And so if there's a lot of newbies that are not people that you know and you're leading it, you need to get their email address so you can invite them back to the next one. And you have to print class handouts. I'm going to show you what you'd print. Of course, this is for you, the teacher only, page 4. This is the lecture guide. Okay. And that's the one for lecture 2, but I'm going to move forward here to what you need to print. Well, you want to print the U.S. Constitution Roadmap, okay? Everybody should have that for every class. So that's page 11, and that's page 12. You see how easy, actually it's page 13 too. So you see how easy this roadmap makes it to understand the Constitution? Because how many articles are in the Constitution? There are 7 articles. Makes it very easy. There's 7 sections of the Constitution. That makes it a lot easier for people to understand. And each section has 2 to 4 or 1 to 4 sections. I should say each article has 1 to 4 sections. And then each section has clauses. Anyways, and then we all need to know the amendments to the Constitution as well, which is in there. I'm having trouble moving my computer here. Okay, here we go. Page 15 is what you would print for your first class. You would print, sorry, my computer's acting funny. Page 15 and page 16 are what you would print. So if you have your own printer, you could do that. I recommend black and white. You don't need to print in color. But what is on page 15 are 15 questions. And they all relate to the video that you watch. Super easy to do. Once you're done, so what I do when I teach the class, I go through the 15 fill in the blank questions, and I ask the attendees to do that. Now the answers are on page 16 at the bottom. Hopefully people who are attending it aren't cheating, because it doesn't do anybody good if you're cheating, you know. If anything, guess what is right, and if you get it wrong, then you've learned your lesson, and you know better, you know, once you know what the right answer is. Now, as a teacher, if you need help, use the answers in the bottom right-hand area. I'll show you where those are. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. So those are the answers there. If you want to, you could go ahead and fill in your document so it already has the answers if you want to before the class begins. You also need to think about the discussion questions before you ask them. There's 4 of them here. You know, these are questions, these are quotes. The first one's a quote that you read by Benjamin Franklin, and the question is, in what ways is the government established by the Constitution? A republic and not a democracy. The second one here is read the quote attributed to Alexander Fraser Tytler in question number 14 on the previous page. So you would go to the previous page, you'd read the quote by Scottish historian Alexander Tytler, and then you would ask the question, why do democracies always collapse? Can you think of any modern examples of this? I watched The Swamp last night on HBO. That was with Congressman Thomas Massey and a couple of other really great congressmen. in the United States, and plus it had some leftists in there. But I was discouraged to hear our congressman from Florida, who's does very good on the Constitution. He described our country as a democracy multiple times. I mean, we got to drive this word out of the thinking of our congressmen, especially if they're good. They need to be consistently calling our republic a republic and not a democracy. And that's really what this first lesson is all about. So we want everybody to read our document, our pamphlet called "A Republic If You Can Keep It," and we want them to watch the DVD Overview of America. Now, we also want them to read the law by Frederick Bastiat. They need a copy of the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers, and they need a copy of the Foundations of American Constitutional Government. The Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalists, we don't just recommend the Federalist Papers, because without the Anti-Federalists, there would have never been the Bill of Rights. The Anti-Federalists made great arguments, and that's why the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution. So out of the debates between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, they both won. They both got a better Constitution. So don't let anybody tell you that the Anti-Federalists were right and the Federalists were wrong, or the Federalists were right and the Anti-Federalists were wrong. The discussion, both sides won during the discussion. Okay. So going back, I can send you a link to where you can print this from your own computer. You don't have to buy it from shopjbs.org. But to read the pamphlet, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, or Bastiat, however you want to pronounce his last name, I sometimes recommend to people that on YouTube, you can actually listen to the book for free. It's a short audio. And you can go to YouTube, type The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and you can actually listen to the book there. It's very good. Probably the best book you'll ever read about our constitutional republic, written from the perspective of a man from France who was talking about how great America was and why republics work. So I'm going to stop sharing that. So anybody who wants that, I'll share that with you. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat box. So anybody, you can press the link after this is over, or during this event, and you can download the document. There you go. So I saved everybody a few dollars. Okay. If anybody else is attending that is taught a workshop, I will advance you up to panelists if you want to move up to panelists, you know, during this webinar. So just let me know. Okay, so during this first, and I'm going to share my screen again. During this first video here,
we are taught that in this nation we have a democracy.
The video overview of America is played. Now I'm going to tell you, the video that we have inserted here is the old one. So if you want to pause this while you're teaching the class and go back to the John Birch Society YouTube page and go to videos, actually you're going to have to go to playlists, or actually here, this will be easier. Type in Overview of America. There's the one that was put up 8 years ago. Here's the one that was put up 1 year ago. This is the new one, okay? So if you want to play this one, this is the new one with
concepts called Americanism.
You can see here that the images are updated, which is, you know, better for the current time. It doesn't look like an old video anymore. So that is the video I would recommend to play. You can still play the old one. The voice is the same. It's done by John McManus. He was our guest last week on our webinar. He's actually going to be our guest again next week. But anyways, that's the video there. And so what you'd want to do is, if you want to juggle it, you would want to go back to the playlist for the Constitution as a Solution. After you play Overview of America, and you'd want to advance up to where the video is done with. And then once you get here, you press play at the 32-minute mark. Let's see here.
Well, thank you to John McManus for that great explanation of the difference between a democracy
And then there's about
and a
8 minutes
republic,
left in the video.
where clearly a republic is
So the video finishes, and then you move on to the questions. And I'll share with you the questions again. Okay. And so after the video's done, you move on to Lecture 1, Video Study Questions. Now, you want to have this handed out to people before it starts. In fact, I would not, I would only give them page 15. Page 16, give them after the event's over with, okay? Page 15 should be all that they have when the video starts. And that way they can fill it out as they're watching the video, okay? Page 16, give it to everybody as they're leaving the room once the event's over with. They're going to learn a lot the longer the Q&A discussion is. I should say they're going to learn a lot more. So that's the key. Is the video is important, but the most important part is the discussion that happens after it's over with. And you're going to hear a lot of people go, wow, I wish I'd have learned that 30 years ago. So we'll go ahead and advance on here to our discussion with panelists, because that's really all I need to show you. Everybody here, we have about 30 attendees. You all know how to start a workshop on your own. You can do it online, you can do it in your home, and you can do it for free. There's really no excuses for any American at this point. We should all be teaching this Constitution workshop. By the way, the best thing you can ever do is look at your calendar and just go ahead and write down the dates that you're going to do the workshop. Video 1's going to be on the 11th. Video 2 is going to be on the 18th. I'm going to show you here something that I posted on Facebook, but I'll show you where I created it. I'm going to share my screen. This is canva.com. I've got it's a small membership. I think I pay $5 a month, but I've created this flyer. And what I do is I don't even print flyers anymore. People don't look at flyers like they used to. It's not worth the money. But I do a picture image of this and I text it to people. But this is a workshop we're going to do in Greenville, South Carolina. You can see while reading it, it's the Constitution Solution Workshop, cost free to attend. Now, I will give members the option to purchase the $20 worth of material usually when I do a workshop. And what I have to do is I have to pre-order those. I may lose some money when I run a workshop, or you never really lose it. You just keep the material and use it for the next workshop. But I'm going to invest in purchasing a number of the materials packets so that I don't sell them, I ask for donations. Sometimes people give you more money than what you paid for them because they appreciate you. They're going to give you $50 sometimes if you give them a $20 materials packet, because they appreciate that you set up the workshop. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Anyways, the flyer doesn't need to be any better than this, but everybody needs to register, because whoever's doing food and drinks needs to know how many people they need to prepare for. So that's the key. How do you go about getting people to show up? That's the discussion we're going to have with our panelists. Welcome, Dallas, and welcome, Sandra and Boyd. I'll unmute you, Boyd, and then welcome, Jim. The question for everybody is, how do you get somebody to show up? Anybody want to answer that?
I can. I didn't know if we could all speak at once. This is Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having been involved in politics for a while, whether you belong to a Patriot group or a GOP group, we've all collected contact information. I just go through the list and think of who you know. You should know their personality well enough to know whether or not they might be interested. And I really would not rule out anybody, because sometimes you get really excited about somebody. Oh, they're going to love this. They're going to want to be involved, and they're not the least bit interested. So don't let that discourage you. But just go through a list and just contact as many people as you can. But I would start with the ones that in your heart, you really know them well enough and know that this is something that's right up their alley. And then I also tell people, please bring a guest, just, let me know, because we have to arrange for seating. And some of the members that we've had join our chapter, I have the JBS North Atlanta chapter, were people who came as a guest. I've had that happen at least twice off the top of my head. Jack Haynes, for one. In fact, he's now started a chapter in his town. So you just never know. Always say, please, bring a guest. Just let me know.
Great. Thanks for the input, Dallas. Anybody else want to talk about this? How do you get people to show up? Okay. Well, Robert, yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's Boyd. I just went back and looked at the attendee list from when we did ours back in September of last year, and the bulk of the people who came were members of our chapter or regular guests of our chapter meetings, which of course was good for them to learn all these things, or learn more about the Constitution. But we didn't pick up a lot of people outside of the chapter members.
Well, Robert Brown, one of his suggestions, and he's the one who leads the workshop in the video. He's the speaker of the video. He said the way he started chapter is he was looking for a chapter, and the field coordinator goes, "Oh yeah, we'll get a chapter going in your living room." And that's a lot of times how a chapter can be started. And so the same thing can be done with a workshop. If you have a friend who wants to, some of us have exhausted all of our, we've hauled in all of our friends trying to get them to be members, and you lose some friends in the process sometimes. But as we all know, the people who actually want to save America are usually the best friends you'll ever have. The people who are actually committed to this. But if somebody is on the other side of town and you don't know anybody on the other side of town, but you're going to help them start a workshop, you tell them, okay, we're going to do a workshop. It's going to be in your living room. Invite your friends. I'm going to come, show up, and I will help you get started. I'm not going to be there for all 6 classes, but I'll be there for the first one and the last one. I've probably watched the workshop personally about 30 times at this point. It's worth rewatching, though. I'll tell you that. You learn something every time from it. It's a very hard lecture to deliver. I've talked to Robert Brown about it. He had practiced it so much at that time. He was very good at delivering that speech for each lecture, and it has to be continuously done over again to be able to remember what he said in that video. But the video is there for anybody. We can all learn from the video at any time. Does anybody else who's a panelist have something to say on what they did to make their Constitution workshop successful?
This is Dallas. Well, I'm a foodie, so I always have food. Nothing expensive. Just tuna fish sandwiches or something, if that's what you want to put out, or depending on the time of the day, cookies and refreshments, coffee and cake, something like that would be nice. That's if you're meeting at your home. We've done both. I've had some here at the house, but then we kind of moved to a restaurant because my house wasn't really conducive to having meetings. So we've just done both.
You outgrew your house is what happened.
Well, that too. And then also where we live, there's not enough parking for everybody. It became a hassle. So it's against our HOA covenants, actually, to have monthly meetings here. So not just for that one workshop, but we couldn't do the monthly meetings here. So, if you have a public place, that's fine too, as long as it's quiet where you can run a video. Yeah,
we've done them. We've done them at technical college before, but the best place is restaurants. I mean, if you have a buffet line that's close to the private meeting room, or if you have excellent service. Now, the problem you run into sometimes if there's not a buffet line, you'll have the waitress coming in and out of the room. Waiter or waitress. I don't want to just, there's male waiters, anyways, but whoever's waiting your table, it can be a distraction during the workshop. We've rented rec centers. So a room at a rec center can be rented. and somebody brings snacks in, and usually rec centers are free, especially if it's a public rec center. So if your question is if you can't find a place to host it, there should be some place nearby that would accommodate you. If not, we always have the internet. I've hosted workshops. I think I've only hosted one workshop online, but I did it through Zoom, and anybody can use Zoom. I'd recommend the paid feature, and it's you don't have to get beverages and food if you do that, but I do recommend the face-to-face interaction. Of course, during this time, a lot of people are not going to show up due to the COVID scare that's taken place, and so we may have better we may just do much better if we start doing more online workshops. So maybe do one that's online and then do one that's face-to-face during the same time period, and see which one works better for you. If you have a question, post it in the Q&A section. If you're in the chat, if you don't know how to use the Q&A section, you can always use the chat area too to post a question. Barbara says here, she's in the chat section here, she said, I invited my neighbors, both Republican and Democrats. The Democrats were the most vocal attendees. Why didn't anyone ever tell me this, is what they asked. I've used a barbecue restaurant buffet, and I agree with that. No interruptions by the waiters, and attendees pay for their own food, so I didn't have to provide that. So thank you, Barbara. That's great advice, and I'm glad you've educated Democrats at your workshop. I've witnessed a number of Democrat congressmen saying we need to at least, they say that they're defending the U.S. Constitution. We know the Republicans are at least doing better than the Democrats, right? But 99% of congressmen don't obey the Constitution. And we should always ask them, would you be 90% if you were 90% faithful to your spouse, how would your marriage relationship go? And that's the same accountability we should have with their score on the Freedom Index. If they're only at 90%, well, how would 90%, if you were faithful to your wife 90% of the time, how would your marriage go? And so we want everybody at 100% on the Freedom Index. If they're not at 100%, if they're knowingly voting against the U.S. Constitution and they don't want to learn, they're traitors to our country. They are absolute traitors to America. They have no business taking the oath to the U.S. Constitution if they have no intention to obey it.
I have something to say about that. Having run for office, I ran for a state representative in 2012, and there was no vetting process of me, and it might even be against the Constitution that you have to pass a test, but there was no preparation to know if I ever even read the Constitution at all. And I think that's the case with most of the people who run for office. It's not that they have studied the Constitution at great length and then said, hey, I think I want to run for office and do something. I think it's usually, somebody that sees a problem and they want to be a part of the solution. And then, of course, you get the people with big egos that want to say, they're a senator. You get a combination of both, but there's really, most of the people I've spoken with, they really don't know the Constitution. I'm talking about politics. Even when we've had a meeting, when Will Zofel and I went in to see David Perdue, and we ended up meeting with his chief of staff, we told him some basic things that he didn't know. He was like, oh, really? And it was about, why did we go see him? About the USMCA, I think it was. Yeah. So they don't know. Their staff doesn't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
So
if we never teach them, they'll never know. Yeah.
That we reach out. And I especially like the comment about somebody who said they invited some Democrats, because the reason we're doing this not only is to save our nation, but to inform the Democrats what's going on. And some of them may not be Democrats when they find out what's really going on, because nobody's telling them this.
Yeah. As a whole in Congress, the Democrats are trying to take us off the cliff at 100 miles per hour, and the Republicans are trying to take us off the cliff at 80 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. There's really no difference between the way the Democrat Party votes or the Republican Party votes. And if you watch the video Swamp, the movie Swamp that was just published on HBO last night, it featured Congressman Thomas Massey, you will find out that there's no difference hardly between Republicans and Democrats. The only way we're going to change our Congress is if we start at the local level. We have to be the ones creating a Birch community at the local level. And then eventually the hope is that our members become congressmen. That's the key. We need members, congressmen all over the United States. We need our members to be serving. People dedicated to the oath, dedicated to reading the New American Magazine, dedicated to teaching the Constitution. How many state representatives and state senators do you know that are teaching Constitution workshops? None of them, basically. So anyways, yeah.
I'm sorry. And I'm glad to say that our chapter has 3, maybe 4 people who are running for office. So I feel good that we're getting that information to them. Because
Well,
if they win, then they know that they can count on us to teach them those things, and nobody else is doing it.
Right. So we're about to end this. So instead of an altar call like some churches do, we're going to do a Birch commitment call. And I want everybody to put in the chat box if you plan on starting a workshop, whether it be online or in your home or at a local restaurant. Type in there, say, yes, I'm committing myself. Type whatever you want. Say, yes, I'm committed. Just type that into the chat box. We've got about 3 minutes left. Type in, yes, I'm committed. And that'll let me know that you're going to do a workshop in the very, very near future to get the community educated. Okay, we already have 3 people that say, yes, I'm committed. We have 4 people that say, yes, I'm committed. 5, 6 committed to starting Constitution workshops. This is really working. I like this. That's how we create Birch community. That's how we're going to change America to where we can restore our republic. It is not dead yet. We just have to take action. The truth is still there. The truth is, if our representatives obey the Constitution, I think we got number 6. Okay, we have one person who's saying they'll do it, but they need help. So somebody's going to need to help that person. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, Dallas, you've committed to helping Karen. So we're at 7 commitments right now. 7 commitments to start workshops. So here's what I want you to do. If you're committed to start a workshop, I want you to email me, and I'm going to put my email in here for everybody to see. And I want you to email me the dates of your workshop and where it's going to take place. And then let me know in that email, yes or no, if you want it to be posted on jbs.org. That's jbs.org, jbs.org, if you're having trouble figuring that out. So email me at emulch@jbs.org or call me if you need help with that. If you don't use email, 864-804-0789. I'll type that in here, 864-804-0789. And we will get you started on getting it out there. I will help you with the flyer if you want help with the flyer. And I'm so excited that so many of you. Okay, we have a member that wants us. Okay, she's going to send us the dates of her upcoming workshops. So I do want to share with you something. Let me pull it up here, because one of our newest members is doing a workshop, and I'm going to show you the flyer that she made. So I'm going to share the screen. She did this on her own. I never even asked her to do this. And her husband are hosting a Constitution workshop that starts tomorrow. And there you go. That's the flyer they made. It can just be that simple. They're hosting it at Carolina Christian Academy in Lancaster, South Carolina, an academy that was started by members of the John Birch Society decades ago. So isn't that incredible that this academy is still being used for the purpose of promoting American principles that the John Birch Society teaches? At the academy, John McManus has spoke there. I brought him there. Peter Gallo, the United Nations whistleblower. Robert Brown, I think, has spoken there too. So I think we've had 3 speakers that have come in and spoken to the kids about the importance of getting involved in helping to restore America and getting our representatives to obey the Constitution. Teach these to kids. You know, if you have a homeschool co-op nearby, ask if you can teach this to the homeschool co-op. There are tons of kids that are being homeschooled this year, tons of them. So there are just endless. Yeah, there are endless opportunities, everybody, to do this workshop, and you got to ask people if they want that help, and most likely, and with America the way it's going right now, I would say most likely they're going to say yes. So, anyways, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Any last words from any of our panelists?
No, but I have a question. I know you don't want to run these back to back, but it also seems that when it stretches out for 6 weeks, people are dropping out and the attendance kind of drops off. What about doing 2 back to back? Like, can you do like 3 Saturdays in a row? Because like for me personally, I would rather come out for 3 Saturdays than 6 for a long period of time.
It's whatever you and the members want. I've seen it work both ways. I've seen 2 Saturdays done where 3 classes are taught. You know, people bring their own lunch. You start at 10 o'clock, you end at 2 p.m. You do it 2 Saturdays in a row.
Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna start doing.
Yeah, that's a
have
great way.
Lunch, then have a lunch break, and then go back to it.
That's
because
the best
people have to
way for
consider,
some.
and they have it might help the attrition rate.
Yeah, I think even tomorrow in Lancaster, if people are bringing kids, there's somebody to watch the kids while the parents are learning the workshop. So for those with small children, they will be accommodated. All right, thanks to
I have a quick question that other people might want the answer to this too. Well, you talked about a homeschool co-op. Would they get like the workbooks and it? I mean, it's run just like the regular meeting, right? You get books for them, and they get like a little certification at the end.
Yeah, so we do have certificates that can be delivered. I will show those real quick so everybody can see. Actually, I probably don't have time to show them, but there are certificates. If you want certificates, you have to print them in your community. I print them off at the local Kinko's usually, and they cost about $2 a piece if you get them on nice paper. Now, you may have a printer at home that can do it. I've just noticed that if you go to a professional print shop, you're going to get a better quality certificate.
Do you know that UPS prints a color copy for 50 cents?
Well, there you go. So if you
could send it to them online, and they'll have them ready for you in no time at all. 50 cents a piece. Yeah,
and you always want to make sure you have better quality paper than the quality paper you usually use if you're going to do a certificate. But those can be handed out the last day of the workshop, and you can actually mail those to people too, if in case they may not be able to show up one day, and you may require that they do lecture 2, and if they do it on their own, and they tell you they did it on their own, you can send them in the mail their certificate. All sorts of ways we can do this, but the most important thing you can do as an American for America is to teach the Constitution. For all of you, I think there's 7 or 8 of you that committed to doing a workshop. You know, Godspeed. This is what needs to be done. I'm here to help. We've got members all around the 3 states that I cover: Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. All members all around that can step in and help you. So just let me know what help you need, and we'll get going.
Okay.
Next Wednesday, Jack McManus, I call him Jack because friends call him Jack, but he's known as President Emeritus John McManus, the President Emeritus of the John Birch Society. He will be participating in a discussion about the Larry McDonald Congressional Strategy. And that is because Larry McDonald perfected a strategy to get Birch chapters in his congressional district. And what happened is the deep state could no longer run their normal campaigns to defeat a congressman, because Larry McDonald recruited so many members of the John Birch Society and organized them into chapters to where he could not be defeated in his congressional district. So it's a strategy that more and more members of the John Birch Society need to know about, and because we have all the tools we need to create congressional districts like this. We just need to take action more. We just need to take more action. I know a lot of you do take action every day, but this is just something we need to do more of. We need to find more people who would take part in that action. Thanks everybody for joining. It's 45. We're 45 minutes into it, so we'll go ahead and end. This will be posted on the YouTube playlist I have for the Birch and R playlist, and it will also be posted on the Berkshire podcast found on iTunes or berkshire.podomatic.com. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll join us next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Evan.